So welcome everyone officially to this evening session. Glad you could all join us. So done a little check-in. Maybe we can just go into today's lesson, seeing as Iona was talking about it. So I'm just going to share my screen. You know when you can see it. So have a little look at the lesson and then go into the text and do a meditation somewhere in between maybe. So Iona, do you want to start? You read paragraph 1.
Sure. The importance of this idea lies
No,
in
you forgot the key idea.
I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. The importance of this idea lies in the fact that it contains a correction for a major perceptual distortion. You think that what upsets you is a frightening world, or a sad world, or a violent world, or an insane world. All these attributes are given it by you. The world is meaningless in itself. Yeah. So when I saw a robotic world this morning, I felt my own participation.
You felt you were participating in it.
Yeah.
Okay. And how did that make you feel?
Like I wanted to bust out of it. Yeah. But then I did a breath break sitting in a cafe. It's all right. Just inside. Listen to the smallest voice inside. All is well.
Just telling you it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter. And it really helped. And I got on with my thing, and then I had a beautiful phone call from somebody out of the blue offering me something, and I, whoa, thank you. And I felt the gratitude.
Oh, that's good. So it's using these things on the fly, when you need them. That's the idea.
That's right. It felt like first aid. When it looks a bit robotic and a bit dumb on the outside, just go in and see what's happening, really.
And it's always about your own perception of it. That's the problem. Because people can behave as idiotically as they want. It's your own perception that gives it the meaning. And then you judge it. And then that upsets you.
Yep, it's an inside job.
And I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. Understand why I'm saying that? I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. It's kind of an interesting one to ponder, this lesson. Why are you upset because you see a meaningless world?
I think it's because we judge. I'm going to use our owner's experience. This robotic world that other people's fear is so prevalent. And if I look back at my own life, the fear I used to have before I started doing this work, we see this absolutely fearful world. But I like what he says, the world is meaningless in itself. But it's because I think we're judging it all the time, that it's sad or lonely, or there's an outbreak of corona, or there's this disease, or that's happening. And I saw people when corona first came out. I had gone to drop something off at my daughter. She wasn't a stranger. She said, Mom, you can't stay. What about if you've got corona? The fear that this engenders, and when you look at it, it's just meaningless in the end. I mean, she got corona, and she said that she went into a complete panic that she was going to die. And then after 2 days, she felt fine. She said, I'm not going to die. We just buy into what whatever is being sent out to us. And in fact, maybe it was after watching those 2 videos of the Matrix, we're just buying into what the world says we have to buy into. And so it is really meaningless.
So why does it upset you? Because it's a meaningless world.
Because we get caught up in the fear and the drama and everything else that's going on. But if we pause long enough, we can see it. It's just meaningless.
And so why does that upset you? If you really do see it as meaningless, would you get upset?
No, you're getting upset because you're believing it all.
So
you're believing the fear, you're believing that corona is real, you're believing that crime is so bad, that there's so much hatred, there's so much xenophobia, there's so much this, there's so much that. We begin to believe it. And we think, oh, we've got to protect ourselves against it. That's what I love about the course. The course is saying, no, all of that's wrong.
Maybe it's because, for me, it's because I want my world to mean something.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Another thing.
I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. So if you really confront the ego with its meaninglessness and say, look, your entire world is meaningless, then the ego gets upset. It's like, oh, I feel personally offended. That how can you say the world's meaningless? It can't be meaningless. No, it has real meaning and purpose, and that has meaning, and that has meaning, and that has a value. And so the ego can feel very kind of personally offended by this kind of teaching, because it's got all this attachment to the meaning that it's created. And so then we get upset because actually underneath all of that, we know it's a meaningless world, because our spirit knows that this is all meaningless.
Yes.
And yet our ego is so identified with it that we don't want to be told that this entire miscreation of our minds is actually meaningless, because we still have this investment in it and we want it to mean something. And so I think that's kind of what he's pointing to as well. That like we're getting upset because we want this to have a meaning. And now he's pointing out that it's meaningless, and that truth is upsetting us.
Yes.
We want it to mean something, and yet it doesn't. But if you can really accept it, this entire crazy, insane place, and all of its manifestations, COVID and whatever follows from that, is totally meaningless. Anything that's meaningful or true, if I can really accept that, it's enormously freeing, because you stop trying to make sense of it. And you stop trying to justify it and go, oh, well, I'll somehow make sense of what's insane. You just give up on that and say, it doesn't make any sense. It never will make any sense. And I think COVID has been an excellent lesson in that. Just go, this really makes no sense whatsoever. It never will make any sense. And so if I can just accept that, this could be a major forgiveness lesson for me, to progress towards enlightenment. Because I'm just seeing, like, I think for everyone, it's an opportunity to go, well, just see the world as it is, because you thought it had some kind of normality and sanity before that. And we've lived in a time when we haven't had any major disasters or wars or anything like that. So, this is maybe the first kind of global shock that we've had in our lifetimes anyway. And now it's like, okay, well, just see that this is what the ego is about, and this is what its world is about. And it is all really meaningless. And just don't be tempted to give it a meaning, because then you'll suffer. If you try and make it meaningful and real, then you are going to suffer because of it. So those are my thoughts on it. So be aware of that. The ego wants so much for it to be meaningful. And we try and create meaning all the time, subconsciously, right? This process is happening subconsciously. We give everything the meaning it has for us. And we do that. Our minds are meaning-making machines. We're giving everything meaning. We're assigning meanings. This is the judgment process that he's talking about. But it's happening so subconsciously that we're not even aware of it most of the time. And so these exercises are designed to bring us into that awareness. So look, yes, be aware of how you are making the meaning and stop doing it. Because if you stop making meaning out of what's meaningless, then you stop the illusion in its tracks. You stop the ego in its tracks, don't you?
It's a real stick in the spokes of the ego making machine, isn't it? I mean, the meaning making ego machine.
Yeah.
I like that analogy. Yeah.
It's a meaning making machine. And these early lessons are, he's just saying, okay, stop making all this meaning. Because you're creating the meaning. That's why, you know, he's focusing in on meaning so much in these first 12 lessons we're at. About 60-70% of them have been about meaning. The meaning you give to your thoughts, the meaning you give to the world. Because you say, well, that's where the problem lies. You're giving it all a meaning. And until you start to undo that, I cannot help you. Your mind is going to still be enslaved into the meaning that the ego has told it is true. Okay, so any thoughts or comments on that? Let's read number 2. So, Richard, if you can read paragraph 2 for us.
Exercises are done with eyes open. Look around you, this time quite slowly. Try to pace yourself so that the slow shifting of your glance from one thing to another involves a fairly constant time interval. Do not allow the time of the shift to become markedly longer or shorter, but try instead to keep a measured, even tempo throughout. What you see does not matter. You teach yourself this as you give whatever your glance rests on equal attention and equal time. This is a beginning step in learning to give them all equal value.
Okay. So does that make sense, those instructions? I want you to read those because...
What it's saying is that in the sense of when you weigh things in your mind and you're going to give things equal value, it would be easy if you visualized it in terms of looking around a room at equal, at equal speed. That would be the analogy, or that would be the image. So look at it as if they're all the same, at the same speed. Don't kind of sit on one and focus on that, and then not give equal glance. That they use that there to something else.
So it's the sameness. What he's aiming to achieve in your mind is a sameness of perception, that you perceive everything from the same point of view, from the same awareness. Okay, because if your awareness is true, there's only this pure formless awareness, then it doesn't really matter what you look at.
Yeah.
Because that's all now within the domain of illusion. It's not true. So why are you giving certain things more meaning and more value than others? And of course that is part of the ego's specificity and the separation. Is, oh no, I judge that as having more meaning than something else. And so these exercises are designed to undo that and say, just look around and look on everything as the same and do it at the same pace, in the same way, so there's no distinctions. So you're trying, with the practice of the exercise, to help your mind to learn that actually everything's the same, and you give everything equal value. And the enlightened perception is simply that. Enlightenment is simply seeing that everything really has the same, everything underlying it at its core is the same. So there's one underlying awareness. That awareness is your awareness. That awareness is in everything. That is the essence, the foundation of everything. And you see it in everything. And then obviously you feel connected to it. So he's trying to help us to correct our perception. So we're starting to see it in that way. So it's a totally different way of seeing the world. Okay, and then he goes, let's read number 3, because there's some good stuff in here about good and bad and so on. So Tricia, if you want to read number 3.
As you look about you, say to yourself, I think I see a fearful world, a dangerous world, a hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, a crazy world, and so on, using whatever descriptive terms happen to occur to you. If terms which seem positive rather than negative occur to you, include them. For example, you might think of a good world, a satisfying world. If such terms occur to you, use them along with the rest. You may not yet understand why these nice adjectives belong in these exercises. But remember that a nice adjective, that a good world implies a bad one, and a satisfying world implies an unsatisfying one. All terms which cross your mind are suitable subjects for today's exercises. Their seeming quality does not matter.
Okay. Does that make sense?
I think he's reminding us that it doesn't matter whether you see it as good or bad, sad or happy, we live in this duality, and whatever term it is, it's still meaningless.
Yeah, so he's focusing on the good or the bad, because the danger is the ego also offers us good stuff, apparently. So we look on the good and we go, oh, I don't want to give that up. Well, yeah, the bad, no problem. But the good, no, I want to hang on to that. But you can't. Because it's two sides of the same coin. So you want to collapse it all into pure formless awareness, which transcends it all. And this is a major learning to get this, because everyone can agree, well, the bad stuff. I mean, Lane today was saying, oh, no, I just want to get rid of all this crap in my head. Just these thoughts, I just want peace. And he's saying, oh, no, well, some thoughts are okay. So I can look on my garden and I can feel a sense of peace because I see the birds. And I'm going, yeah, but look at what he's saying. Look, and so you say, well, that's a good world, that's good. So that's satisfying. And he's giving us this exercise indiscriminately, because he's saying you need to apply this across the board to everything. Otherwise, you maintain areas in your perception where you still make the world real. Well, I like the good stuff. I like the happy, the nice stuff. I like the scenes of birds. I like nature. And as long as you have that, then you're making it real. And then you have a distinction between that and what's not good. Well, I prefer beautiful nature scene to a rubbish dump. And most people would say, well, yes, of course. What he's trying to train you to do is to say, but it's all the same. It's all illusory, right? You're in a dream. It's all a dream. So none of it is any more real than anything else. And you are assigning the meaning, and you are giving these meanings, and that split, that perpetuates the split in your mind, because you keep being specific and saying, oh, I like that more than that. And so now you've got separation going on in your mind, haven't you? Because you've got preferences and attachments, and what he's trying to take you to is perfect oneness, where there's none of that. That's all gone. Pure formless awareness has none of that. So these exercises are helping you to see that, yes, there's this dualistic nature of the world, and I need to let it all go. I cannot hold on to the good stuff and not also have the bad stuff. And that's how it works. We come back, over and over to this place because we're still attached. We still think it offers us something. So there's a desire for something. Yes, I like the good stuff. I like the whatever it is. I like the nature. I like walking in nature. I like a special relationship. I like going out for good meals. I like, whatever it is. And he's trying to deprogram us from all of that, because he's saying, but you're still dreaming. When you like these things, you're liking what is not true. It's a dream. And because you like the so-called good stuff, you're also in the construct of time and space where the bad stuff can come, and certainly will come, because that's the nature of this world. You've got the duality. If you really want to be done with pain and suffering and sickness and death and all the obviously bad stuff, then you also have to look at the seemingly good stuff and say, no, this is equally meaningless. And that's quite hard. A lot of people have resistance to that. You don't want to do that. It's like, oh, but that's nice. I'd like to keep that. I like to keep that thought. Okay, so you can keep the reality of that thought, but not the flip side of it. Well, you can't. So for instance, you see the birds, and then the next day you see a bird that's died. And then you go, oh, that's so sad that the bird died. And then because you made the bird real, you now suffer, because apparently the form that you attach to has gone. And you have to realize that all of it, every form is illusory. Everything here is impermanent and is going to die. The form will no longer be there. So why get attached to any of it? Because it is going to fade away and die in time. If you knew that everything was going to die tomorrow, attachment would just be meaningless, wouldn't it? Well, why would you get attached to anything? It's all going to disappear tomorrow. But because it seems to last longer, we do get attached. It seems, oh, well, it'll still be there tomorrow and the next day, and then eventually it won't be there. It will fade away, and then we feel, oh, now I'm missing it. And now I somehow feel that something has been lost. And then the idea of loss and scarcity and sacrifice is perpetuated in our minds. But if we simply not attached to it to start with, then that can't happen. We simply find the underlying pure formless awareness in everything. That's what he's directing us to. So you can just look on everything, and it really doesn't matter what you see with the body's eyes or what any of the senses perceive. You're just seeing with your mind. You're seeing with the mind of oneness, the mind of Christ, as you would call it. And that is holy perception. That's what he's pointing us to. Beyond the judgments, the duality of the world. So this is it's a simple exercise, but it points to a major part of the correction process, which is letting go of the desire we have for the good things of this world. Okay, so number 4. Richard, do you want to read that?
Be sure you do not alter the time intervals between applying today's idea to what you think is pleasant and what you think is unpleasant. For the purpose of these exercises, there's no difference between them. At the end of the practice period, add, but I'm upset because I see a meaningless world.
Okay, so he's just reiterating there. Don't make any distinction between what you think is pleasant or unpleasant. There is no difference between them. So he's asking you to suspend your normal judgment for the purposes of these exercises and just start training your mind in another way of perceiving. Then he goes into number 5. So Iona, will you read that?
What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. If it is this you see in it, it is this you see in it, it is this that is meaningless truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God, is written the word of pure formless awareness. The truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see its words. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises.
So here he's pointing to, why then should a meaningless world upset you?
Yeah.
Exactly what we described.
It's that common saying, look at the writing on the wall. Where did that come from? Is that a biblical saying? Just see the writing on the wall, you know, and this is saying, let the truth be written upon it for you. It would make you indescribably happy. Love that.
Not sure where that came from, actually. See the writing.
It's a song by Iron Maiden. Hooray.
Okay. It is, yes. See the writing on the wall. Origin.
That's Old Testament.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Have a look. Ray's recording an Old Testament story about Daniel. Okay. Foreign land of Babylon, 6th century. Mysterious hand appeared, writing on the wall of the king's palace.
Wow.
Okay, so that's where it comes from. See the writing on the wall. Very interesting.
Wonderful.
King called Daniel, who interpreted it to mean God intended.
He wasn't a king, he was just a prophet.
No, but the king was the
King Nebuchadnezzar of all kings.
was it Nebuchadnezzar? Interesting.
Yeah.
Because Nebuchadnezzar is the name of the ship in the Matrix tomorrow. So
Yes, there's a
Kind of a
very
leader.
interesting. When I was watching that bit of a documentary, it was very interesting to see all the connections and the meanings of words and their names. It's so priceless.
Yeah, and the biblical reference to Mark 2, and so on. So it's an amazing movie because they were meticulous about the detail, only like to the point of being obsessive about the detail of getting everything right. God intended the king and his kingdom to fall, and the king was slain that night. So I guess then see the writing on the wall is like a prophecy of doom. It's like see the writing on the wall. This is going to happen, and it's not a good omen. Okay. And then he says, truth upsets you now. So what upsets you is that the truth that this is a meaningless world is what's upsetting you. But when your words have been erased, you will see his or its. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. So we need to stop writing on the wall. The idea of the blank slate, the clean slate, tabula rasa in Latin. This world is a blank slate, really. And then we keep writing our meaning upon it. Imposing our meaning upon the world and the situations and so on. You're saying when you can erase that and you can clean the slate, then you will see his or its. Then you will see that pure awareness arising. And you will see that everything you wrote on the wall was meaningless.
What I'm finding really helpful in this exercise is to think, the ego is upset. I'm not upset because I'm pure formless awareness. So I'm doing my own translating all the time. And when I'm reading you, I'm thinking, I'm infilling with ego. If ego could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for ego, it would make an enormous difference. Yeah. So that's helping me.
It would make you indescribably be happy. So, goodness, none of this meaning that I've made out of this world really means anything. I don't have to continue with it. I don't have to keep justifying it. Yeah. I can be free of it. If it doesn't mean anything, I can let it all go. What a relief.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
And so all of the insane ideas and beliefs and everything that you don't like about the world just drops away. It's like it has no meaning. It has no purpose. It has no meaning. It really and so why am I getting upset about it? I should just be joyful and happy that it has no meaning. And just stay in that state. You know, even if you're getting attacked by two women going, excuse me, where's your it's okay, well, whatever, you know, it's fine.
Thing was, I had gloves on.
You had gloves on. Okay, so like, what's the? Well, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I've got gloves on, so. But you can smile about it. You can laugh because it's just like it's just crazy. It's like these minds. You start to observe that people's minds are really just bound up in this insane thought system.
Yeah.
And you know, they think this is all real and important and meaningful. And your job is to stay in the state of mind where you know it's not.
Yeah.
And maybe you can communicate some of that to them, or not. Maybe not. But just the main thing is you holding your own peace.
Yeah.
And you're not letting it take you into the meaningless ways of the ego, which are just to get upset and angry and frustrated and whatever, by what is essentially meaningless, by its own meaningless miscreation. It gets upset all the time by it.
Mhm.
Which doesn't make any sense. Well, you made it up. Why is it upsetting you? It's upsetting you because it's not true and it's not real. And on some level, you realize that everything we made in this world is a denial of pure formless awareness. So everything just confirms to us that the separation has really happened. When you really start seeing this, it's quite shocking, actually, to say it. It's like, wow. Like everything I've made here confirms that the separation is real. If I make that, whatever that object is, if I make that real in my mind, and I put any kind of value on it, that confirms the separation in my mind. Because there are no objects in heaven. There is no form in heaven. And that doesn't rock your world a bit, then nothing will. It's like, whoa. Like, so as you go along with this path, you can find a sense of extreme discomfort, acute discomfort, because it's just like, oh, like, what am I in here? And it can become almost excruciating. But ultimately, that's part of letting it go. Because you recognize that, okay, this really doesn't actually have any meaning. And I must let this go. In order to be free of this place, I must let go of the meaning that I've given it. Otherwise, my mind will come back here. The meaning that my mind has given it will bring me back time and again. So this process, however you do it, whether you did it through A Course in Miracles or through another spiritual path, but this process of undoing the meaning that you give the world must happen in order for you to be free. Unfortunately, Jesus is just giving us, I think, it's amazing mind training that I haven't seen anywhere else. He's giving us these really simple but powerful exercises to do this, to accomplish this. So, and why not just go with it? Okay, so any questions on this lesson? Any comments? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Profound.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're simple lessons, aren't they? But it's amazing, like in one lesson, simple sentence, what's in there. So each simple idea can take you all the way to the truth.
That's it.
Recognizing the nature of the illusion, to recognizing the truth. Each one contains the entire truth.
Yeah.
So like a holographic system. So he's giving you these different facets, like a facets of a diamond. Each one is part of the diamond. Each one can take you into the whole thing.
Yeah.
You understand it. And so as we go through these lessons, it's like each one is just polishing a part of your awareness so that ultimately you have this, diamond that's revealed itself.
Yeah.
But even one of these ideas, fully understood and accepted, takes you all the way to the truth. That's the power of it. So each lesson can take you to full enlightenment if you allowed it to. Okay, so shall we do a little meditation on this? I'm going to actually guide you through a 10-step process as well. So we'll do that again, and I'll guide you through this in the beginning and the end of that meditation. So I want to make yourselves comfortable. So sitting comfortably. Feet shoulder width apart. Back straight. Cup your hands in your lap, close your eyes. And just start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, you notice how the stomach rises and the chest rises. A subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in, draw the energy up your spine to your heart center, drawing it up into the crown of your head. Pausing at the top of the inhale. Right into the crown of your head. Pausing, smile. And so just scan your mind, just noticing any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on, particularly anything that feels at all negative, limiting, contracted, constricting, and remind yourself that I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. I'm only ever upset because I see a meaningless world. So as you look on whatever the thoughts are, say, I think I see a fearful world. I think I see a dangerous world. I think I see an insane world, a hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, and so on. Using whatever descriptive terms happen to occur to you. Something seems positive. So I think I see a good world, or I think I see a happy world. And then just include it. And remind yourself that really I see a meaningless world. So say, but I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. It's really because the world is meaningless. I'm upset. Ego doesn't want to see the meaninglessness. So just exhale and have a sense of releasing all meaning that you've given to the stream. Releasing and letting it go. From the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. Pause here, notice stillness arising in your mind. Just a happy, clear, light awareness. And if you notice something still lingering, any negative thought or emotion, I'm going to do a deep clean on it now. This is this 10-step letting go process. So breathe in and just acknowledge, okay, so there's this persistent negative thought. Maybe there's something that just keeps getting you, keeps coming up. Persistent negative thoughts and emotions. So breathe into it, create some space, some awareness, some light. Notice what it is and acknowledge it. If you bring it to mind, then you can start the letting go process. If you deny it, then you repress or suppress it, and that means that you're not consciously aware of it, and you cannot move to step 2, which is to be fully present and aware. Just be aware of these thoughts. Whatever the thoughts are, observe emotions. There might be a feeling in the body. Observe the sensations of the body. Tell you how you're really feeling. So then again, just create a wrapping the situation in your higher awareness. You might be able to see yourself as separate from the thoughts and emotions that you're observing in the mind of the person that you thought was you previously. This is the beginning of the full realization you'll one day have that you are not really this person at all. Breathe deeply in through your nose. If you're struggling with this, just open your eyes briefly and raise them to the ceiling. As you look up, keep your chin level, raise them. Breathe in, and you should find that your mind kind of blanks as you do that. Just a blankness, an emptiness, an open, spacious awareness comes into the mind, which is what you want. So then you exhale. As you exhale, remember that this is an illusion or a dream. The world, a changing perception of including this situation that seems to be upsetting you, is an illusion or a dream created by your ego mind to reinforce its false and fearful identity. The dream isn't real and it's not really happening. Why are you getting upset over it? Ask yourself. Upset over nothing. So breathe in again. Low stomach, filling low stomach, up, heart center to the upper chest. And so the dream is not real. Whatever you perceive in a dream is not real, and so it's not really happening. It's not really happened. This might seem impossible and incomprehensible to you. This is just your ego's resistance to the truth. So recognize that resistance and lay it aside. Just tell your mind the real reason that you let go of these false thoughts and perceptions is that they are not real. So they're not really there. And therefore you are free of them in truth. And so now as you breathe in again, remember that this situation, however it looks, whatever someone seems to be doing to you, whatever seems to be happening to you, remember that you projected it. So quantum mechanics says there is no reality in the absence of observation. So you created the projection of it. Whatever someone's done, it's your projection. It's a movie screen. You projected your thoughts through the film of the ego's beliefs onto a screen of time and space. So it's a four-dimensional screen. It plays out. Plays out in the stream of time and space. So why would you take any of these projections seriously? Whatever someone appears to be doing to you, you're in fact doing to yourself, of your own unconscious guilt that you projected out into the illusion and dream and manifested in the form of the situation and the person appears to be causing you to suffer and making you a victim. So that's all projection. It's a setup. Breathe in on the truth of that. And remind yourself that it's always you who are responsible. Say to yourself, it's always me who's responsible for creating my reality. Now you're going to choose to let go of most of it. Next stage is a halfway house, a halfway forgiveness, or compassion. So exhale. As you do that, just feel, if you can, compassion towards yourself and all others involved in the situation. Because the truth is that we're not that different. We're all just caught up in this dream world, insane projections and perceptions of a mind that is insane. It doesn't really mean anything. So everyone is actually just trying their best to manage in this state of insanity. And people have skillful or unskillful attempts to do. So if someone is being unskillful, simply look at them and say, well, you're not being very skillful in doing this. You could do this in a much better way, but you don't know. So how can you condemn them and judge them when they just don't know? They're ignorant. They don't know. Maybe they can learn. But any transformation begins with a recognition that I do not know. So just feel this compassion as you breathe into your heart center. Breathe it into your heart. Then stop there into every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle. So observe yourself, observe the other person or people, observe the patterns, observe their drama. They behaved in certain ways that are unloving. Just notice that an unloving behavior is caused by something. Call it fear. And they're just stuck in it, enslaved and entrapped. So it really doesn't help them to judge them at all. And the way out is through. So you need to feel these emotions now. Just breathe in and on an inhale, just feel these emotions, the original situation. So go back, bring it to mind, bring the thoughts, put strong emotional energy. Just observe it, fully experience all the pain, discomfort, physical, mental, emotional. Breathe in to help you. So there's some awareness, there's some light. Awareness is the light in you. that is just holding this space for you. Just see that. So breathe in to your heart center, just being aware of whatever the block is. Might be a feeling of sadness, anger, frustration. Feel these emotions. Don't let yourself get sucked into them. So it doesn't become a vortex that pulls you into negative thinking for hours, maybe even days or weeks. Doesn't matter. So just observe. Imagine breathing in light into whatever those thoughts and those emotions and those sensations are. So as you observe these, whatever the emotions are, feel the sensations in the body, stomach. And there's a slight butterflies in the stomach, a knot in the chest. And you bring the light in to help you. The light of your true awareness, your pure formless awareness beyond these emotions and sensations that are very impermanent and temporary. So imagine breathing this golden or white light into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind. Every fiber of your being. Breathe it in, it's in the light. You are the light is you. And in the presence of the light, no darkness can continue. So whatever emotion you felt, you can now choose to let it go. There's enough light in you, you breathe it in again. Imagine that light infusing your heart center, every pore of your body, every cell, every muscle. It's in the light. So now you're going to exhale, just release all of this. You bring the light into it and you expel the darkness. Like a dark black smoke leaving you. So the nothingness that it really is. Blowing it all away with the breeze of your breath. From the lower stomach in to the spine, just rest here. So you feel a sense of release, that dark energy has left you. It's going, gone to the nothingness it really is. So you let go of this painful negative feeling inside of you. You resolve that you do not want this again. You don't want to feel this way again. You want to correct your perception. And so you feel released. Breathe in again. If there's still any residual darkness, just breathe in, notice that darkness. Rising your mind, notice where it shows up physically, physical tension, stress. Breathe in the light, pure golden white light, flowing into your heart center, into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body. And the presence of this light, this dark energy, this dark thought and emotion, which is insubstantial, an illusion, And so as you feel the light transmutes the darkness, and you just help the darkness on its way. So exhale out through your mouth, so letting it all go. So nothing should really is. And so you just exhale, bring in the light, and then you release any dark thoughts and feelings. So nothing's there. You don't have to do anything more. You don't have to plan any specific outcomes. You don't have to anticipate guidance. Simply have to let go now. Let go now and trust. Blow it all away. The breeze of your breath. So nothingness it really is. And feel like just reveling. So stay here for a couple of minutes of deep silence. Just appreciate the perfection for yourself. You feel this deep peace calling you beyond your dream, beyond illusions. Soft, gentle presence. It's been calling to you since time began. Now listen to it. Go into it, merge with it. This is the mystical union of the Father and the Son that every hero must undertake to bring his awareness back to pure formless awareness. And so just sinking in. In this meditative state, deeply contemplative, just feel a sense of release. If any thoughts arise, just let them go. Blow them away with the breeze of your breath. Use today's mind training session. They say my meaning is only upset because I see a meaningless world. My meaningless thoughts that are already upsetting me. Upset only because I see a meaningless world. Let it all go, blow it all away. Appreciate the perfection. The mirror of whatever the situation is has helped you to see and let go of your own pain and negativity. Without the situation to trigger it, to arise, and then become aware of it, and then you can let it go. There would be no correction. The belief would remain uncorrected in the subconscious mind. So this situation, person, place, event, circumstance has triggered you. Now you've done the correction, and that is the miracle. This is how you find your way home to pure formless awareness, because you have to let go of all of it in order to be aware of heaven. And you smile, so you appreciate the release and the freedom comes, and you can appreciate that this is all necessary. Whatever the situation is or was, whatever the experience, whatever someone seems to have done to you is all perfect in its imperfection. All necessary to make you aware of your subconscious programming, the ego, bring it into awareness as you've just done, and to let it go. And so feel a deep gratitude. Breathe in. Deep gratitude for this process of correction. In fact, the ego's mechanism of projection is behind the whole world. Keeps you enslaved here. Why can't you feel grateful? Just be grateful even for the worst things in your life. This situation, other situations. Because in these lessons you learned the most about yourself. In fact, observing the projections and then releasing the projections is how you undo the ego. So it's all good, it's all absolutely perfect in its imperfection. So why would you be angry? Any emotion other than gratitude is an aspect of pure formless awareness. So feel that gratitude, breathe it into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, your heart. And you can feel grateful for every difficult situation, every challenge in your life. It was all designed to help you to see your ego and to let it go and be free. So you can truly give thanks for that to the Holy Spirit, as well as to the person or people involved in the situation. And you give thanks truly, then you've already seen it. And resentment is gone. So the litmus test of this is, are you still resentful to any degree? Are you holding a grievance, or is there just this genuine gratitude for what you learned and how this has helped you to uplift your mind? And so now say to yourself that as you breathe in, you've totally forgiven or let go of the whole situation, people involved in the situation, and yourself for all your thoughts, words, and actions related to the situation. So the truth is, we need to forgive ourselves mostly. We projected this, we brought it into our reality, and so we can also choose to let it go. Say in this situation that whatever the difficulty was, the problem has been dissolved. Everyone involved has been healed through your forgiveness, through your letting go, through your not judging them as separate, and they start to see themselves as not separate. So say as an affirmation to yourself, I forgive you, and name the person, and I am forgiven completely. Forgiven completely, forgive you, and I'm forgiven completely. In other words, I let go of my negative programming, I let go of my beliefs. That's what true forgiveness is. I forgive you, name, or I let go of you, name, and so I am forgiven completely. I'm in this pure formless awareness. All is forgiven and released completely. We always are, have been, and will be one self, the Christ, Son of God, use whichever language works for you, the one self. So I love you unconditionally as myself. And just feel the power, the peace of these words. And so just sinking in to this one self. The one self is the only belief that's going to take you back to pure formless awareness. State of mind in which there is no separate self. So just allow this mystical merging of your mind into oneness to happen. Immerse yourself in it for the next 4 minutes of deep silence. Sinking in deepwards into the light. There's nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, and be still in the light. Feel that there's nowhere the light begins and you end. So just sink into it, let it encompass you fully. Merge with it for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. And so just coming back gently into the body and the breath, senses and the world. On the count of 3, to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, a subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, noticing energy rising up the spine. Just every subtle sensation of the breath to bring your mind back into an awareness of the body. Maybe for a few minutes there you drifted away and you weren't really aware of the body at all. Notice how peaceful and light that felt. Now you come back with present awareness. And just by focusing on the present moment and what your senses are perceiving, you bring your mind back in the present and you stop the judgmental mind. You're breathing in again. Top of the inhale, pause, scan your mind. Any thoughts, any emotions, notice the sensations in your body connected with that. And just be ready to let it go. So exhale, whatever it is, say, I'm only upset, my peace is only disturbed because I see a meaningless world. So you exhale, releasing all this stuck energy. You can imagine you blowing it away like a dark cloud, dark black smoke leaving your mouth, leaving your body, your energy system. Blow it all out. Notice the sensation of the breath. It's the energy subsiding back down the front channel of your body, coming to rest in your lower stomach and your groin. Feel the weight of your body on the count of 2, pressing down into the chair, feet touching the ground, noticing what you're feeling with your hands touching. Some subtle flow of air on your skin, notice any smell in your nose. As you breathe in, maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Noticing all these things, sometimes for the first time. Very present awareness, no judgment. So you're just aware, you observe, but without judgment, then you stop the ego in its tracks. It's the interpretation, the meaning we give to things that enslaves us into the dream world. So now as we come out, we're going to do some more practice. Just practice today's lesson. As Jesus suggests, with open eyes. So on the count of 3, open your eyes. And look about you. Richard's gone. So just look around you with equal tempo, just gazing at various objects. Don't let your eyes rest for too long and just say, I think I see, whatever descriptive term comes to you. I think I see a fearful world. Look at something else, a dangerous world, hostile world, a sad world, a wicked world, a crazy world. Use whatever descriptive term happens to occur to you. Use the good terms as well as the seemingly bad ones, and then say, but actually, I'm upset because I see a meaningless world. And I'll just sit with that statement for a moment. I'm really upset only because I see a meaningless world. My ego wants this world to have a meaning. When I think that it's meaningless, then that upsets me. But actually, as Jesus says, What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? You could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you. It would make you indescribably happy. Maybe you get a little glimpse of that now. Just observe your current state. And notice that maybe there's some happiness and peace that's arising. Because you've just cleaned your mind and let go of the meaning that you've given it. We are, as Jesus says, because it is meaningless, you're impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. And it's meaningless in truth, we give it the meaning, and this is what we see in it. It is this that is meaningless in truth, your own misinterpretation. It's a miscreation, so that's a projection, and then it's a misinterpretation. So the perception of this as being the truth. Beneath your words is written the word of God, the word of pure, formless awareness. Truth upsets you now, but when your words have been erased, you will see his or its. That is the ultimate purpose of these exercises. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. So Richard's fast asleep. Iona, are you still with me? If you like, we can go into some practice of reading and practice of today's workbook lesson, which is how many paragraphs? 7, not too bad. 7 paragraphs. Should we do that now?
Yeah.
To the text reading. I think Richard is out. He's gone. So I've just taken his video out. He's slumped down. He's gone. So we'll leave him. He also needs the rest.
Yeah.
Okay. So this one's called perception versus knowledge. You want to read paragraph 1 for us?
Perception versus knowledge. We have been emphasizing perception and have said very little about knowledge as yet. This is because perception must be straightened out before you can know anything. To know is to be certain. Uncertainty means that you do not know. Knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is temporary. As an attribute of the belief in space and time, it is subject to either fear or love. Misperceptions produce fear, and true perceptions foster love. But neither brings certainty because all perception varies. That is why it is not knowledge. True perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth and beyond all perception. Plural.
Okay. So what I'm going to ask you to do, Ryan, just try this. Try reading it again and just read it slower.
Mm-hmm.
Read it more slowly and see what happens. Just kind of take your time. It's no rush. And see what happens.
Uh-huh. We have been emphasizing perception and have said very little about knowledge as yet. This is because perception must be straightened out before you can know anything. To know is to be certain. Uncertainty means that you do not know. Knowledge is power because it is certain, and certainty is strength. Perception is temporary. As an attribute of the belief in space and time, it is subject to either fear or love. Misperceptions produce fear, and true perceptions foster love, but neither brings certainty because all perception varies. That is why it is not knowledge. True perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth and beyond all perceptions. It's like a Celtic knot.
Like a what? A Celtic knot.
Celtic knot.
Knot.
Yes, K-N-O-T.
What, the domain of perception is like a Celtic knot.
It's true perception is the basis for knowledge, but knowing is the affirmation of truth. It is the beyond all of my egoic perceptions. And knowing is pure formless awareness, and I am the extension.
So knowledge is in this domain. I'll bring up this descent into hell diagram. So knowledge is here. God's love or oneness is knowledge. And our perception of this world, true perception, is the basis for knowledge. So it's how we climb back up the ladder to get to the point where we started, the one tiny mad idea, and we're willing to let go of that tiny mad idea.
Yeah.
So we must work within the domain of perception to correct our minds of all these false beliefs. But knowledge is outside of perception, this whole realm, this perceptual realm is the ego's realm. And that's quite an important, it's actually the whole understanding that there is a completely transcendent dimension.
Then my visualization of the Celtic knot was good because the perception went round and round in an unbreakable knot, but out of that was the knowledge surrounding all of that.
Surrounding the knot, yeah.
Yes, was the oneness.
So instead of getting caught up in the knot, you can simply go beyond the knot or cut. There's a good story of Alexander the Great, which kind of illustrates this quite nicely. Someone tell it. Apparently he went into Asia and there was some prophecy that the person who could undo this knot, there was this knot in a rope somewhere, and the person who could undo this would conquer Asia. This was the prophecy. So he arrives, he knows the prophecy, and he doesn't really bother. He doesn't bother with the, like, oh, well, let's try and unpick the knot. He just takes his sword and he cuts it. It's like, right, we're just going to cut this. And, in a way, that's what we're doing here. You're just like, all right, so we're just cutting this whole thing away. Whenever you bring your mind to oneness, you're just saying, well, look, I don't actually have to work out and figure out like how this knot could be undone or how I could try and tie it better, because it's often what we're trying to do. It's just cut it away. This knot is not meaningful. It's not real. It doesn't exist in oneness, and the knot simply disappears in oneness. So it's always referenced outside of the knotted domain of time and space and perception. Just by referencing to everything to that, the knots in your thinking and your emotions, because that's where they exist, and seemingly, those just start to dissipate. You find a sense of openness and peace coming in, and you're like, well, it doesn't really matter. So even if I can never really figure out my life, everyone's trying to figure out their life and the secret to their happiness. You start to go, well, I never really will, because it's an insoluble problem. That's never really going to work. So the answer lies outside of the construct of the problem. I need to go here and just experience this. And then the problem is not there. In perfect love, pure formless awareness, the problems simply have disappeared. And so in a meditation, when we do meditation, it really helps us to go there. That's why it's such a helpful technique, because it helps you just to go into that state and just let go of all the thinking. And then you come back and you retain some of that. There's a feeling of a deep peace in your mind. And so some of those knots have been undone.
Yes. What is the Gordian knot?
How do you spell that?
Gordian.
Gordian knot. Interesting. I've never heard of it. Gordian knot meaning. Okay. So Gordian knot, an extremely difficult or involved problem. Ancient Greek. Oh, there we go. It is actually associated with Alexander the Great. There we go.
That was the Gordian knot.
The story I just told.
Yeah.
Yeah. Often used as a metaphor for an intractable problem, untying an impossibly tangled knot, solved easily by finding an approach to the problem that renders the perceived constraints of the problem moot, cutting the Gordian knot.
Which is in this context, pure formless awareness.
Yeah, exactly. So there we go. I didn't know the name of it, but that's
Shakespeare, Henry V.
Yes. Yeah. Turn to him, any cause of policy, the Gordian knot of it, he will unloose, familiar as his garter.
Good.
So the Phrygians were without a king, but oracle Telmissus, the ancient capital of Lycia, decreed that the next man to enter the city driving an ox cart should become their king. Peasant farmer named Gordius drove into town, and ox cart was immediately declared king. Out of gratitude, his son Midas dedicated the ox cart to the Phrygian god Sabazios. The Greeks identified with Zeus, tied it to a post with an intricate knot of cornel bark. Okay. So that was the Gordian knot. Knot was later described by Roman as comprising several knots, all so tightly entangled that it was impossible to see how they were fastened. And then Alexander the Great arrives, at which point Phrygia had been reduced to a satrapy or province of the Persian Empire. Oracle declared that any man who could unravel its elaborate knots was destined to become ruler of all Asia. So he wanted to untie the knot, but struggled to do so. He then reasoned that it would make no difference how the knot was loosed, so he drew his sword and sliced it in half with a single stroke. An alternative version of the story, Alexander the Great loosed the knot by pulling the linchpin from the yoke. Okay, so he just found another way to solve the problem, in other words. Confronted with the challenge of the knot, but his solution is disputed. Okay, so we can go into this, but the point is he saw outside the box. That was the point. Looked outside the box and he said, okay, so if I just look at the problem of the knot, I'm going to be here forever, because this is like such a complicated knot. So I need to think outside of the box. And remember, he'd been trained by Aristotle. Aristotle was his teacher, who'd been in turn trained by Plato. So he had some of that Greek kind of wisdom, understanding, presumably, coming through. It didn't stop him wanting to conquer the whole of Asia, of course. Then, but he obviously had something about him, which is why people followed him. He was the leader.
Okay, I'm just intrigued. My ego wants to know why that little paragraph produced the vision in me of a Celtic knot, and it was exactly pertinent to this perception versus knowledge, and it's led into this interesting discussion about Alexander the Great and the Gordian knot and the cutting through the problem and the pure formless awareness shining through the seemingly intractable problems of the ego mind, just shining away the ego. contortions.
Hmm. Well,
Nice.
it's your spirit. So the spirit can bring in helpful metaphors, analogies, visions to help you. So you had this image of the
Yeah.
Celtic knot. Presumably that's also a complicated knot of sorts.
Well, it's never ending. It's
Hmm.
just a continuous, beautiful loop.
Continuous loop. Right.
Yeah.
So it's this never-ending, seemingly never-ending story
Yeah.
of perception in this world. We got caught up in this, and it just keeps looping and looping and looping, and we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to make this work.
Yeah.
And Jesus is saying, look, this is never going to work. You need to go here and shine the light of your true awareness on any problem that you experience in time and space. So any knot, shine the light on it, and the knot dissolves, because in oneness everything dissolves.
Yeah.
So this is the it's a problem solving technique, actually. This course is a course in problem solving, but just different problem solving from the world's problem solving. Because remember, our only problem is a perceptual problem. David Hoffmeister is very careful, because you have to acknowledge one thing. You have to acknowledge that you have a perceptual problem. So the perceptual problem is you think that there's an external world that's real, and it's not really real. You think there's something there and it's not really there. This is a major problem.
Yeah.
And if your mind keeps in that perceptual problem, then all the problems that are caused by that one perceptual problem seem to be insoluble. You just seem to go around and around and around in the problem, and there seems to be no escape, and it's all pretty depressing.
Yeah.
And yet the answer is to look at the root of the problem. I have one problem, right? I have a tiny mad idea of separation in my mind, and I now perceive from that tiny mad idea has come an entire world, which isn't really there, but I think it's there. And so I'm misperceiving. Everything I think is here is not really here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a major perceptual problem, if you think about it.
Yes.
You're misperceiving everything. Every single thing within that construct is a misperception. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, this is going to the very core of the problem of the human condition. Like, I'm misperceiving that there's a reality there when there's not. Today, Patricia was talking about Rupert Sheldrake.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that they banned one of his TED Talks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so you know who he is. Rupert, he's a kind of a scientist, but alternative scientist, entomorphic field, and so on.
Yeah.
And so we looked it up, and it's like, well, this is what TED says. No, we took his talk down from the platform because, according to them, this is pseudoscience.
Oh, who's deciding that?
Well, who's deciding that it's pseudoscience, right? Appears to have crossed the line into pseudoscience. Oh, isn't that interesting? So who decides what's science now and what's pseudoscience?
Okay.
Isn't that interesting? So they ban his talk, and they also banned another guy called Graham Hancock's talk, because they're obviously pushing some buttons in the scientific community.
Very good. Oh, I'll have to watch it.
And then, yeah, absolutely. You can, unfortunately. It's not on TED, but you can watch it if you Google Rupert Sheldrake banned TED Talk, you'll find it.
Yes, I will find it.
In fact, I'll send you the link. Here it is.
Please
I haven't actually watched it.
I've never heard of a TED Talk being banned. That's
Yeah, well, then you got to go, oh, so he obviously pushed some ego buttons there. So that's interesting. So let's watch it. What is he saying here?
absolutely. How silly to ban it. Because
Yeah,
it's going to get billions of views. Oh,
exactly.
where has Patricia gone?
I don't know. She dropped out and she hasn't come back. So, and Richard, I think, is still asleep. So we'll leave it.
All
Hopefully,
right.
he's absorbing it subliminally.
Yeah.
So in fact, I'll put it in the group. There we go. Let's stick it in the group. So there we go.
Great. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Watch this for Sheldrake's banned TED Talk because it was supposedly pseudoscience. Well, the interesting thing is that everything that's true was once pseudoscience.
Yes.
They banned Galileo because he said, no, actually the earth revolves around the sun.
Yeah, well.
The other way around. They said, no, this is incorrect. I'm going to ban you. But he was correct. So
Yeah.
probably likely, given history, that Rupert Sheldrake was actually correct.
Yeah.
And what he was accusing the scientists of pushed their ego buttons. So they didn't like it. So they banned the talk, which is classic ego defense mechanism. Because he's saying that the scientific community is still enslaved by this idea that the world is really there, the scientific materialist paradigm. Even though Newtonian physics has been discredited by quantum mechanics, still the scientific community hold that that's somehow true, that there is some kind of objective reality that's out there. And quantum very clearly says there is no reality in the absence of observation. So why don't the scientists accept that then? That actually Newtonian is dead. It was never true. It was false science. That's Newtonian physics is pseudoscience.
Behind the curve.
Quantum is actually saying the truth. But it's so radical that they don't want to accept it. So then they ban the talk. No, we don't want to hear the truth, so we'll just ban it. I mean, that's just so, I'm amazed they did that. But then they had some advisors, shadowy advisors. Isn't that interesting? So who's actually behind them then?
Oh, here we go. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, exactly. The scientific board, if you read it, who's the science board that advises TED then? Who are these people? There's no disclosure of who these people are. Oh, okay. So one wonders then, who's actually funding it?
Of course.
The same characters, man. They're behind it all. It's the same characters. And they don't want people to start awakening. So they want people to stay in the Newtonian worldview of, oh no, there is an objective reality and this is really happening. And then we can control you if it's really happening, because it's happening and it's not about your perception. We remove your ability to choose your perception, see? So it's all, the Newtonian worldview plays right into the hands of fascist controllers. They like that worldview because it perpetuates their control.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing that there's an agenda behind this. Okay, so TED are supposedly dedicated to true knowledge and science, but oh, hang on, someone really pushes their buttons and then they ban the talk.
Yes, exactly. It's free, but only up to a point.
Yeah. And so then, he probably got more views than ever because, banned it, I've got to watch that. To today's discussion. So there we go.
All right, then.
You can have a listen of it. And there's a scientist who is willing to think outside of the box. But what he's starting to do is he's starting to question the reality of the construct.
Did I see right then? Was that talk in 2013?
Yeah.
And they've only just banned it?
No, it was 2013 that it was banned.
Oh, it's 2013. It was
so if you look at the transcript here, TED blog, March the 14th, 2013. And then he replies on March the 18th, 2013 to their, specific accusations very well, I have to say. Because they've got all these points, supposedly. TED's anonymous scientific board. Oh, right. So isn't that interesting? An anonymous scientific board. Who are these people?
Why do they have to be anonymous? Come on.
Oh, exactly. Because only the ego likes to hide, you see. Who's anonymous then? If you don't want to disclose them, because you know what? It's the same characters. It's the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds or a version of it. It may not be them directly, but it's a version of it because they'll be funding this. And so then TED don't want their funding pulled. You can be sure they get a call. Right, we just take that down because it's not kosher. We don't want this out there. That's how it works. Follow the money, and you see.
Rock and
roll.
roll.
So then it's not independent, objective at all. And if anyone who says science is objective, it's just nonsense. It's another paradigm. It's another construct of the mind.
Yeah.
In a similar way, I mean, if you compare this to what happened 500 years ago, there was the church and there was that whole kind of very absolutist, dogmatic world. You know, there were the rules and you couldn't break them, and you were sinful if you did. And the Illuminati came along, and they were the ones at the forefront of questioning that and saying, okay, you know, there's another way here. There's a higher way of looking at things. We need to start using our reason and our rationality. And so they became the Illuminati, the enlightened ones, right? And at that point, they were. I think, honestly, the whole movement probably started off quite well. People like Newton and Galileo, they were probably part of it. Leonardo da Vinci, you know, they were all these great thinkers. They were all part of this. Okay, we need to question this. Really, you know, it was a fascist control system. The church was just a dogma that had served its time. It was no longer useful for progress. So they were like the enlightened ones who are going to bring progress on. And then 500 years later, what's happening now is they've got rooted in another dogma. That's a scientific materialist dogma, that the world is somehow real, the Newtonian paradigm, all of this, and that we are somehow at the effect of the world, and we are not causative in the world. We are not projecting it and perceiving it. We are at the effect of this Newtonian world, which of course means we're controllable. So it's another control system, just like the church was. And so now what's happening is another revolution of saying, no, this is wrong. The scientific materialist paradigm has become the new enslaving dogma of humanity, which needs to be challenged and questioned and undone because it's not true. And quantum does that. The fundamental principle of quantum mechanics, the Copenhagen interpretation, shall we say, because it is an interpretation of the results that they get, which just shows you science is an objective. It's an interpretation. You have to interpret the results. Someone has to interpret it. But it's the most accepted one, is that there is no reality in the absence of observation. Wow, just think about that. I mean, that doesn't blow your mind a bit.
Yes, I have.
There is no reality in the absence of my observation.
Yeah. So
I look at a tree. I think the tree's there, but it's not there unless I'm here. It's only there because I'm observing it. It has no independent objective reality. It's in my mind, in other words. I am projecting it and I'm perceiving it. And I'm doing that simultaneously so well, I don't even know I'm doing it. I've forgotten I'm doing it. And this is the mystic understanding of the world. So when you start going into what they call pseudoscience, what he's actually going into is a transcendent or mystic understanding of this world, which has previously been limited to mystics. But now scientists are starting to go there and starting to say, well, the quantum world starts to point us there. If we look objectively at the results of these experiments, which they've repeated over and over in many laboratories around the world, they get the same experiments. They get the same messages. So if you look at the double slit experiment, this famous, have you heard of the double slit experiment?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a mind-blowing experiment. Yes. What is it saying? It's saying, well, you got this wave particle duality. So if you start off with a slit and you beam electrons through there, then you get a whole lot of electrons on the wall. Fine. But now you have two slits and you beam electrons through each one. You would expect there to be two bands. Oh, now it's a wave interference pattern. So now these things aren't particles. They're behaving like waves. They're everywhere. They're not singular particles. Well, how does that work? But then it gets even more quirky because they say here that furthermore, versions of the experiment that include detectors at the slits. So now you have something that detects a counter that detects the electron going through. And then the experiment changes. The outcome of the experiment changes. Because if you've got a detector, then it detects the photon, the particle, passing through one slit, as would a classical particle, and not through both slits, as would a wave. Stick a detector there, it behaves like a photon, behaves like a particle. Take the detector away, it behaves like a wave. This reality is not independent of our observation. It depends on the intention of the experimenter that determines whether this thing is going to behave like a wave or a particle. In other words, there is no reality in the absence of my observation. The experimenter determines the outcome of the experiment. Interesting. And if you do one electron, you beam one electron and there are two slits, the one electron splits into two and it now becomes a wave. And if you put a counter on it, it chooses one of the slits to go through and it's a particle. depending on which way you want to see it. So that doesn't tell you that reality is perceptual. This so-called reality is all perceptual. Like you are making this up as you go along, then nothing will, right? The experiment directly points you to the same mystical understanding as the likes of Jesus and Buddha and all the mystics have had. You know, this is in your perception, right? You are dreaming this up. There's no independent reality. You make the reality, you project the reality on one level of your mind, you perceive it as true, and then you do that so well you've forgotten you're doing it, and now you're enslaved in your own projection perception mechanism, which is then the Celtic knot. Round and around and around you go, and you cannot unwind that until you understand what it is that's actually happening.
Perfect.
And all true knowledge points you there. So if you have a true scientist, like a Rupert Sheldrake, who's not scared to rock the boat and go against the convention, he's starting to get the truth. He's starting to go, yes, I'm starting to see that science is pointing us to something beyond what's explainable. And it always does. You know, whether you take the quantum route or you go into cosmology. I was listening to a talk by a quantum physicist, very bright guy called David Bohm, and he's giving it at Cambridge. And like, you know, this is like all the tradition, and he's giving it probably in the same lecture room that Isaac Newton lectured in, and it's like all this.
Of course.
And he goes, well, about 15 minutes into the talk, he says, well, you know, at time zero, so in other words, before the thought of separation, we really can't say what happened. We really can't say anything. And so then instead of pausing and going, wow, that's kind of interesting. So then we're going into just another reality, another timeless dimension. Isn't that interesting? Maybe we should explore that. He quickly carries on, swiftly moving on, you know, stumbling over the truth, but we won't stumble for too long. And we carry on in the illusion of trying to now work this out in terms of some kind of model. Oh, we want to get better explaining this, and we're going to come up with a better model and a standard model and better equations. And you can see how the mind gets totally enslaved by this. And now it's trying to work it out. And he's trying to work it out within a construct of his science, quantum mechanics, that is never really going to work, because you'll never find a grand unified theory of separation. How can you? It was designed to be separate. And it was designed to be chaotic and not really understandable. So you can look and look and look into the dream, just like you can try and unpick the knot as much as you like. You're never going to do it until you go there, until you go, but hang on, where's this pointing us? To time zero. To a timeless state beyond all of this, where all the models collapse. And so then I'm no longer so special because I'm no longer a scientist. I'm just like everyone else, just trying to figure out the truth. And there's a resistance in the scientific community because they identify with their status. They're scientists. They're scientists, and aren't we so smart? We're somehow above everyone else because we know we can understand quantum mechanics, and no one else has a bloody clue what it means. So
exactly.
we're smart.
Yeah, very special snowflakes.
But actually, it's all illusion. You can use that illusion. It's a path. Quantum mechanics could be another path out of the illusion, because it will lead you eventually to the truth. But then you have to be willing to go there and say, okay, well, that was just training wheels. Quantum mechanics is just training wheels in illusion. I'm willing to let that all go and become a mystic. And go into the oneness, because that's where the answer lies. And if the mind is too obsessed with it, they won't do that. They're attached to it.
Are we going to go through this lesson?
Yes.
Good.
So moving swiftly on to number 2.
Right. All your difficulties stem from the fact that you do not recognize yourself, your brother, or pure formless awareness. To recognize means to know again, implying that you knew before. You can see in many ways because perception involves interpretation, and this means that it is not whole or consistent. The miracle, or correction, being a way of perceiving, is not knowledge. It is the right answer to a question, but you do not question when you know. Questioning illusions is the first step in undoing them. The miracle, or the right answer, corrects them. Since perceptions change, their dependence on time is obvious. How you perceive at any given time determines what you do, and actions must occur in time. Knowledge is timeless because certainty is not questionable. You know when you have ceased to ask questions. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Anything stand out for you there?
The reminder of who we really are. It's not new. It is to remember. Yeah. And
To
I think
recognize means we rethink, recognition.
Cognizance.
To know again literally means to know again, to rethink it.
To know again,
Implying that you knew before. That's interesting. So we're just going back to a state that we once had.
We're going back home.
And it says perception involves interpretation. So this whole knotted domain of perception always involves interpretation.
Yeah.
It's not whole or consistent. Because the miracle of correction is a way of perceiving, is not knowledge. So he's framing this. What I like about Jesus, he's very clear about where we are.
Yeah.
Saying the miracle is this domain. It's only useful in this domain because it's the correction of your perception within an illusory world.
Yeah.
And it's necessary in order to create the foundation for knowledge.
Yeah.
You're not just going to go straight back to knowledge. You must start with your perception.
So the perceptions are good questions. Good questions. Yes. And we have to.
In the Matrix, you said you're not going to be able to watch it, Sally, but you can watch it.
No. My plans have changed twice this week.
Have they? Right.
Yeah. So I will be.
You are available. Oh, well, that's good. So in the Matrix, you'll see that right at the beginning, first 10 minutes, Trinity meets Neo in this nightclub, and she says, "You know the question, just as I did." And he says, "Yeah, the question is, what is the Matrix?" Because that's the question that starts the mind thinking. What is the Matrix?
Yeah.
Questioning illusions is the first step in undoing them. So the question leads Neo down the path. That's the start of his whole spiritual journey into the truth. He's questioning, what is this Matrix? What is this reality I'm in? Something's not right here. I know something's not right here. I don't know why it's not right, but I know something's not right here. And we all have that awareness.
Yeah.
And then the people who follow that are simply the people who choose to awaken, who go on a hero's journey. The people who suppress it and go, well, I'm not going to bother about that. I'll just busy myself with the illusions of the world, which is unfortunately the majority. Don't ask the question. I'm not really willing to listen to an answer that they don't want to hear. Because if you ask that question, you might get an answer that isn't that palatable, as Morpheus says to Neo. Remember, all I offer you is the truth, nothing more. You may not like it. In fact, Neo doesn't like it. He throws up so violently. He's going, I can't. This is
I
too
remember
much.
that scene.
Remember that. Because it's hectic. It's like it's the truth is shocking.
We cannot stomach it.
Yeah, literally.
We cannot
Truth is too shocking for us. So we don't want to awaken because we want to cling to the illusion that somehow this world is real and somehow it will work. And we just got to find a way. If we just persevere, we'll figure out how to make the matrix work. And the truth is that it's not going to work. And it is a construct designed to enslave our minds. That's the fundamental teaching of the matrix, which is based on Advaita, by the way. So Advaita Vedanta was what the Wachowski brothers studied, and they based the whole thing on the understanding of Advaita and various other philosophers like Jean Baudrillard, and sort of postmodern thinkers who were saying this is a hyper-real reality. This isn't really real. And which is hardly a new idea. It's been around thousands of years since the Vedanta, thousands of years ago. But this is just the Matrix is the modern version of it. Brilliantly done. What a brilliant movie. Just so amazing to bring that into mainstream consciousness through a movie.
Quite so.
Really incredible. So it's a fantastic movie to study because it's
I'm
got it
looking
all in
forward.
there.
Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it.
It's all in there, and all the
Yeah.
nuances. Really watch the nuances and the subtleties, because they made that movie they storyboarded each scene. It was like a cartoon. They did it as a like cartoon, and they storyboarded each scene. So there was each detail was drawn out, and
Yeah.
then they went, okay, we've got to make sure that detail's in there. So the details like the names of the ship and the numbers on the room, you know, all of this, it's all part of the really, really well done. So
Oh, great. That'll be a good
Something to
Saturday
look forward
night.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so moving
Okay.
on to number 3.
The questioning mind perceives itself in time and therefore looks for future answers. The closed mind believes the future and the present will be the same. This establishes a seemingly stable state that is usually an attempt to counteract an underlying fear that the future will be worse than the present. This fear inhibits the tendency to question at all. All right. So the closed mind, it's usually used as a derogatory term. You know, somebody with a very closed mind, you know, i.e. not open to new ideas. But this saying here that the closed mind believes the future and the present will be the same. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? This is
So read on. So then he says this establishes seemingly stable state.
seemingly stable state.
Not really stable, but it seems
No.
to be.
Yeah,
Usually
but it's
attempt
like
to counteract an underlying fear the future will be worse than the present.
yeah.
So you notice people like not really open to any kinds of ideas. They shut new ideas down very quickly. There's a fear, right?
Yes.
What they're trying to do is manage their fear and mitigate their fear through this very closed-minded attitude. And so this fear inhibits the tendency to question at all. They don't question because
So
there's
it's
too
easier
much
just to
fear.
expect. Yeah.
And then everyone else must accept. Anyone who's questioning now disturbs this so-called comfortable status quo, the stable state.
Definitely.
And so now they are then seen as somehow, you know, disturbing my peace. They must be brought in line. You must come in line with the. And we see this playing out so clearly with this whole COVID pandemic.
Oh, definitely. You know, and I can make people very angry because I'm questioning. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, you know, they should be questioning too, but they don't want to go there because it disturbs their peace of mind. They'd rather just accept that, okay, well, this is true then, because that feels comfortable.
Yes.
Even though there might be a gnawing doubt underneath that maybe it's not true. They suppress that and they go, no, because you know what? If I go there, it's a whole can of worms. The whole thing cracks open, doesn't it? If I go there, it's a thin edge of the wedge. The whole thing's going to crack open, and my entire ego is going to be threatened. That's the whole point. Because I cannot believe anymore in this world. But people want to believe. So they want to believe these authorities are real and true. And that somehow this worldly authority is going to really look after them. And they can't possibly be actually trying to damage my health and to kill me. They can't possibly be doing that. Because I want to believe in some kind of, you know, authority that's going to be looking after me. And no. And of course, they play to that. Yeah, no, don't. You know, we're doing it for you. Don't worry. We've got your best interests at heart. We're looking after you. It's that whole paternalistic, you know, yes, we'll look after you. You're our children. And people are still, you know, they're not adults. They haven't grown up into a mature wisdom.
What we were saying yesterday, believe me, this hurts me more than it hurts you. So just swallow the pill, you know? Yeah.
And I'll accept it because I'd rather that than the fear of questioning my certainty and cracking open the ego's.
And that is truly terrifying. It's truly terrifying.
What's truly terrifying?
Oh, cracking open the ego basis on which life has been constructed. The house built on sand.
Yeah, your entire reality comes into question.
Yeah.
Who am I? The world. You know, this is not for the faint-hearted. Like I've walked this path. My God, sometimes you go, Jesus, am I going insane here?
Yeah.
Am I losing the plot?
Mhm.
Am I actually sane, or am I losing it? And
Yes.
you see that in the Matrix. He's like, what is reality anymore?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, what I thought was real isn't real. Who am I? Reality is like shape shifting. There's no certainty anymore.
Yeah, I
And
have
so
to
it's
say,
very,
J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter is an absolute genius. She's, it occurred to me last night when we had that discussion about when you use the term shapeshifter just now, that's a
Mm.
J.K. Rowling
Mm.
term.
mm,
Has somebody reinterpreted Harry Potter in terms of A Course in Miracles? That would be fantastic.
yeah, well, we can do that.
Well, it
So
would be an
it's
amazing
part of
thing
our
to
ongoing, like in the year, we do
new
movie watch.
generation. Mhm.
So,
I mean,
watching.
I would love to do that in terms of talking to my kids who are now all in their 20s
Mm,
about the Course in Miracles, and they've known of its existence now for about 8, 9, 10 years.
mm,
But in terms of applying it, my
mm,
nearest entry point has been Harry Potter.
yeah, interesting. And the
Yeah,
reason why the Harry Potter books have been so successful is because there's spiritual truth underlying them.
yeah,
And it's a story that demonstrates a spiritual truth. There's good versus evil, that whole, I mean, in any great epic, it's that dynamic. You look at all the movie franchise, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, The Matrix, it's all that dynamic, good versus evil, what's actually the nature of reality, what's true. And that appeals to people. You'll read that story because it's appealing to the very, very core of your nature. We all want to believe in the good,
yeah.
but then we're all facing our own demons. We're all facing the darkness in the world. And so this is the hero's journey. And so it's, Harry Potter's a hero's journey. It's a hero's journey, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
it
so
is.
brilliant the way that some people can interpret this and then put it down in a story that's gripping people, that in the story demonstrates these principles.
But it's
So
a real, the Harry Potter story is a real open door to changing minds of millions of people.
It
I think
is an interesting formal religion. We're like, oh, Harry Potter's the devil's work. Must burn the books, and because they don't want anything that questions that paradigm, because they're
Good.
fearful. Yeah.
Hooray. I know, I'm proud of her. She's a local girl.
Yeah. Scottish. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, 4.
Yeah.
True vision is the natural perception of spiritual sight, but it is still a correction rather than a fact. Spiritual sight is symbolic and therefore not a device for knowing. It is, however, a means of right perception, which brings it into the proper domain of the miracle. A vision of God or vision of pure formless awareness would be a miracle rather than a revelation. The fact that perception is involved at all removes the experience from the realm of knowledge. That is why visions, however holy, do not last.
Okay.
Is the natural perception of spiritual sight. It sounds like that's more of a moment in time rather than anything that's incredibly solid. Spiritual sight is symbolic, but it's not the device for knowing, which is like the foundations, the bedrock. It's not the house built on sand, it's the bedrock. It's a means of right perception. Yeah, which he said earlier that the miracle was the good questioning, the necessary questioning to free us from our egoic knot. A vision would be the good questioning rather than taking us beyond into a source. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. Anything with when he talks about vision, when he talks about sight, vision is within the perceptual domain. So if you look at our definition of terms, ACIM glossary, it's I think we've got vision in here somewhere. grace, angels, vision. So the Holy Spirit's perception of anything. In other words, spiritual sight. So it's within the domain of perception, but you're now perceiving from pure formless awareness.
Yes.
But it's the awareness of oneness that can now perceive the dream and reinterpret it differently. So you see the guilt and the sin and whatever, but you don't make it real. You simply say, this isn't true, this isn't real, because only this is real. And that's the correction. And it's so simple, really. It's such a simple correction. But yet we have to do it. If you keep believing in all this stuff and you don't correct it, then it continues. So again, he's framing it into, we're dealing with perception rather than knowledge here.
Yeah.
And where miracles set. And remember, this course is in the framework of perception. It's not a course in revelation, it's a course in miracles because it's set in the domain of time and space, in the domain of perception, as a corrective device for our perception to prepare us for knowledge.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Perfect.
Okay,
Awesome.
number 5.
Number 5. The Bible tells you to know yourself or to be certain. Certainty is always of pure formless awareness. When you love someone, you have perceived him as he is, and this makes it possible for you to know him. Until you first perceive him as he is, you cannot know him. While you ask questions about him, you are clearly implying that you do not know pure formless awareness. Certainty does not require action. When you say you are acting on the basis of knowledge, you are really confusing knowledge with perception. Knowledge provides the strength for creative thinking, but not for right doing. Perception, miracles, and doing are closely related. Knowledge is the result of revelation and induces only thought. Even in its most spiritualized form, perception involves the body. Knowledge comes from the altar within and is timeless because it is certain. To perceive the truth is not the same as to know it. Gosh, many more ways of explaining the difference between perception and knowledge. And that reminder that knowledge comes from the deep part of the pure formless awareness, which I am, and its timelessness is certain, which is beautiful. I'm reminded that, in these first lessons, he said, you don't have to understand it. If you didn't understand it, you wouldn't, when you understand something, you don't have to keep practicing it. So all you need to do is practice it because you don't understand it.
Yes. I was saying that to Elaine today. She was saying, I'm just not getting my head around that it's all an illusion. I'm not able to go, this desk or this chair is not really there. And I said, well, don't worry, that's because it's not an easy idea to wrap your head around.
No, it's not easy. I remember when I was
time.
Fake it until you make it, I was outraged. Outraged. Yes.
You practice until you make it. You practice and you practice. And then like as you practice this letting go, you do get more insight. You do start to understand more. There's no doubt.
It's certainly a more elegant way to say, rather than fake it and make it. Fake it.
Yeah. Practice until you make it. Yeah.
Practice until you make it.
Yeah. And as you practice, you are learning a thought system. You're learning this thought system. You're learning the truth as you practice.
Yes.
It kind of makes sense because you can learn anything. So, okay, you're going to learn true perception now. And you need to practice that. It's not just going to happen. We'll go to great lengths to learn all kinds of arbitrary skills in this world that don't really mean anything. But we don't want to train our minds to practice the one thing they need to learn, which is I need to let go and I need to perceive truly.
I must say that was really truly helpful last night when I can really question myself on what I am doing apparently in this world, but then came the message, the real work is on the state of mind, which is eternal. So why not spend the time on the real work?
This is the only true use of time is to understand this. This is why we're here. So, people say, well, you're spending a whole lot of time on it. I'm like, yes, but this is what time is for. The whole point of this is to get this so that, you nothing else really means anything. You understand this, you're free. You don't understand it, you come back again for another go in the matrix. You forget everything. You got to come back into another little baby body and try and figure it all out again. Oh, do you really want that? I'm like, what a disaster. When I held my son, it was like, oh my God, what's just happened here? This isn't like nice and holy. He's just like enslaved in a body.
Oh, did you see that? Oh,
yeah, he's helpless. I could drop him on his head now, and he's completely helpless. He's put in his mind into a body that's totally reliant on an external world that he's got no control over. My God, what a vulnerable, why would you do that to your mind? Why would you put yourself in a position of such vulnerability? It could only be insane to do that. When you are all-powerful mind and you incarnate into this little body that's helpless, that can be disposed of in a dustbin. I mean, this stuff happens. People just dump babies in dustbins in this country.
Yeah, and you know that his sole contract was that he needed to come back and learn the lessons that he has to learn.
Yeah.
How old is he now?
He's turning 7 next month.
Turning 7 and doing fine.
Yeah, he is. He misses me a bit, but otherwise he's pretty good.
Pretty good.
But it really struck me. Like, I mean, that they say at birth and death, these extremes, you can learn. I was like, whoa, what's just happened here? And I recognized that 42 years before, I did the same thing.
Yeah.
I came into this world as a helpless infant. And it's like the whole construct just really shook in my mind. It was like a radical shakeup of like, whoa, like what is this? You accept this human life as somehow this is what it is and it's real. And then just like, I'd been studying a course for 10 years at that point. And so it was all just kind of came home. And I was like, whoa, what is actually this about?
Well, good for your son for incarnating, by agreement to be your son, so that you could get that huge shock to your system that would propel you into a great teacher.
Yeah, it was a dark night of the soul. It was like, what? It was a deconstruction.
Yeah.
Of, and I remember once thinking, I was going, this is so funny when you recognize the ego. Said, Jesus, Jono, this stuff's going to kill you.
Yeah.
I remember saying that to myself.
Yeah.
This stuff's going to kill you. And then I immediately just looked at it and I went, yeah, but that's kind of the whole point. You do actually want to undo the Jono character. That you want this to happen.
Yeah, I was saying I saw Lucy this morning and I said, remember, I can't remember what we were talking about just at this moment. I said, you remember the ego wants to kill you. And the ego wants to take you out.
But in this instance, it was like, this is going to undo my ego. There was such an ego fear. You see what I mean? Of like the character. Jono would cease to exist. And I really saw that. And I was like, whoa, that's just, when you really get there, it rocks you. It absolutely rocks the foundation of your world. Like, whoa. And then you start to realize why, this is a difficult journey, because when you get there to like facing the ego in its kind of raw, it's like, yeah, I've got to let go of the sense of self. I thought I was Jono, and I'm not actually that at all. And actually that is a relief, but whoa, the resistance to getting that and understanding that is a shock to the system, which is shown quite well in the Matrix. You see him waking up, it's like, waking up, he's like, oh my God, like this is hardly a beatific experience. He wakes up and it's like, where am I? And then this machine comes and unplugs him, and then he goes hurtling down a chute, then he drowns, gets hauled up into the light. He can hardly breathe. And he's like, am I dead? And he says, no, far from it. And then he has to recognize the truth, and then he pukes because it's just too short. It's like, okay, this is pretty violent. It's like not all, all lightness and it's all sweet and lightness. No. Because then it's a shocking realization to come to the truth.
Yes. Woo! All
Actually,
right.
go through it. So, it's not for the faint-hearted, but
No. Okay. Right perception is necessary before pure formless awareness can communicate directly to its alters, which it established.
alters are a foundation of a thought system. That's what we decided was the altar of God. Is a mind. It's a mind, Barry. The mind that believes in the foundation of a thought system. So the true altar is perfect oneness. The mind that believes in perfect oneness. So when he says to its altars, it's the mind that is now can communicate the oneness to these seemingly separate minds. To his altars, which he established in his Son. So it's the foundation of the thought system in his extensions.
So to me, that's a holy grail, to put it into movie language. That's how I visualize it in my mind.
The Holy Grail is what everyone is searching for. It's not a cup. It's the inner essence.
It's the inner essence.
Yes. Or in Harry Potter terms, the Philosopher's Stone. It's the same thing. Like there's this thing you got to get, that you got to understand, the truth. That's the altar of God that's in you. The truth is in you, but it's buried, and you've got to go find it.
That's right.
And dedicate your life to that.
Yeah, and that's why it's been the most puzzling, complex mission that humanity has had to undergo. Where to bury it? Right inside human mind.
And then we look elsewhere for it and go, everywhere else. It's outside me.
It's outside. The answer is in you, because you look nice. You've got a good design shape.
Yes, the answer's in you, or the answer's in a substance, or the answer's in money, or the answer's in the government, or the answer's wherever, but not in me.
No, never.
And isn't that just like so cunning?
Yes,
like
it's really
project
cunning.
everything out, forget the answers in you, and then you're lost in your dream world.
Yeah, the diamond under the doorstep.
Yeah.
There it can communicate its certainty, and its knowledge will bring peace without question. Pure formless awareness is not a stranger to its extensions, and the extensions are not strangers to each other. Knowledge preceded both perception and time and will ultimately replace them. That is the real meaning of the Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And before Abraham was I am. Perception can and must be stabilized, but knowledge is stable. Fear pure formless awareness and keep its commandments becomes know pure formless awareness and accept its certainty. So again, keep questioning, keep demolishing the ego before the inner altar can be in direct communication with pure formless awareness. It's always been here. And there is a piece that paths all understanding. And it's really that it's a recognizance, a recognition in us. It's a re-remembering. Pure formless awareness is no stranger to any of us, but we have so woefully forgotten, and we've woefully forgotten our oneness with each other. The Alpha is the knowledge. Preceded both time, perception, and time, and will ultimately, and the Alpha, the knowledge is both the Alpha and the Omega.
The beginning. So before the time was, before time started, that this existed, and it still exists.
Yeah.
At the end of time, it will still exist. And so, and science can't go beyond this. You see, so science can go to time zero, and then they can start telling you how this whole thing happened. And they can tell you the universe cooled and all of this, but they can't tell you why it happened.
No.
Beyond that, you go into the domain of philosophy, and that makes them nervous. So they steer clear of that. But actually, you have to ask, well, if there was a thought of separation that kicked this all off, there must be something that thought of separation split from. There must be something else. Can't just be that. Where did it arise?
Yeah, quite
What's the source and the origin? And that obviously points you to some pure formless awareness, some conception of God.
Yeah.
That is pre-existing, that always has been and always will be, an eternal presence. Because they cannot answer the question, well, how did the universe then pop into existence? Where did it come from? Well, we don't really know. It just kind of manifested out of nothing into this bundle of energy that then exploded outwards. But we can't really say where that came from. Oh, okay. Well, don't you think that's a massive hole in your theory? We can't really say what the origin of this was. Well, the origin is in the mind. So there must have been a pre-existing mind that now had a thought. And this is the only theory that makes any sense of how this all came about.
And so the Big Bang was God. And the Big Bang was a tiny mad idea that we should all be separate.
Yeah.
And
that's what was behind the projection.
Mm-hmm.
So the tiny mad idea led to all of these intense emotions: guilt, sin, fear, attack. Intense. The mind is going crazy. It's freaking out. Yeah. And it's literally going out of its mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you project all this thought out of your mind, and you now create an external world from your thought. And we literally went out of our minds, and we still are out of our minds as long as we're in a body and in this world.
Yes, yes.
Now the journey becomes, we'll go back into the mind and find this, the pearl of greatest price, the philosopher's stone, the holy grail, that's still there, that you've never actually forgotten. It's still in truth at the very core of your awareness, because you still have existence. So that fundamental existence is still there, but you've covered it over with all of this rubbish that you think is real. And now the hero's journey becomes to return to the source and discover that for yourself. And of course, no one can do it for you. No one can say, here's God. Worship. I mean, people have tried religion. Here's God, worship God. This is my version of God. Put it on a pedestal, create a whole construct around it. And if you just believe, then you're going to be okay. But that's not the case. You really have to unwind all of this. And that's not easy, which is why there's so much resistance to it.
Oh,
I like these before Abraham was, I am. That's a lovely saying. Because it's just taking you in that single sentence. Before Abraham was, before time, any of this, I am. I am is timeless, eternal presence. And of course, no one understood it. The Jewish says, well, what do you mean before Abraham was, I am? How can that? So what are you saying, you existed before Abraham? They didn't get it. They thought that Jesus was saying he somehow pre-existed Abraham in time. And he wasn't saying that at all. He's saying, no, beyond the time dimension is I am, is another dimension. And in a single sentence, before Abraham was, I am, he takes you there. Shoop, off you go. And that's what he does all the time in the Course. He uses this all the time. He talks about time and space, and then he, whoop, in the same sentence, he takes you, whoop, parachutes you up into pure formless awareness all the time.
The prayer rug is pulled from underneath us.
Yeah.
If you attack error in another, you will hurt yourself. You cannot know your brother when you attack him. Attack is always made upon a stranger. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, and so you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him. Perceive him correctly so that you can know him. There are no strangers in pure formless awareness creation. To create as it created you can create only what you know and therefore accept as yours. Pure formless awareness knows the children with perfect certainty. It created them by knowing them. It recognizes them perfectly When they do not recognize each other, they do not recognize pure formless awareness. So when in the Bible, God says, suffer the little children unto me. How does it go? I never understood that.
Well, let's Google it, shall we? What's the saying? Suffer the children.
Suffer the little children
Suffer the children.
to come unto me. To come unto me.
Jesus said, let the little children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. The word suffer in early modern English means to allow something or tolerate an action.
Ah,
So that's what it
oh,
means.
under sufferance. Yes, of course. To
Yeah.
tolerate. Well,
So
that's
allow the
perfect.
children, suffer the little children to come to me. Allow the children to come to me. I think
Yeah.
that's what it means.
Yeah. For the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. So it's not just, the juniors, it's all of us. This is our natural inheritance. This is home. This is where we've forgotten.
And he's saying we're all children of pure formless awareness. We are the extensions of it.
Yeah.
And we need to humble ourselves and just be as little children. So I don't really understand. Truth be told, I don't actually understand anything. That's a prerequisite for doing this course.
Yeah, I know nothing.
I know nothing, so I'm willing to be taught. Because if I think I know, then I'll block these ideas. I'll go, no, that's not true. Like my ideas are true. And it's like, no, well, that's not going to get you home then. You're gonna continue on in time and space forever, as long as you believe in your own ideas.
So you're going to hurt yourself if you project on somebody else and attack them, because it's really what I cannot bear in myself, that I am making somebody else's problem. I'm telling you that it's my fault that I feel so rotten today.
And then we create a stranger. So we create separation, because you can only attack what's not you.
Yeah.
In truth, you're attacking yourself, but the ego doesn't want you to see that. So then you attack others, and you think that somehow that's going to work ridiculously. Like, how is that ever going to work? Attacking others, is that going to bring you peace and happiness and joy and love? Clearly not. But the ego continues in its insane strategy, because it's addicted to separation.
So that's
see him correctly so that you can know him. So you see him as the same pure formless awareness, the extension of the same pure formless awareness as you are. So I see you as I am is unconditional love. Not I love you. I mean, what does that even mean? I, subject, love you, object. Impossible.
Yeah.
Can't really do it, because you've created a split right there in your consciousness. But if you say I am you,
I like the Sastri Akal or Namaste. I see the light in it. Yes, I recognize.
I see you. That's what it says. And I see you as myself. That's what it means. So there's the recognition. That's an unconditional loving statement.
Right.
I see you as myself, rather than I love you, because I love you is very fraught with duality and special relationship connotations. And I love you, is it really love, or do I just want something from you? I say I love you, but who's the you and who's the me? Am I still thinking I'm separate from you? And we say these words, I love you, just as a kind of a meaningless, oh, I love you, because that's what you want to hear.
Yes, it is.
Does it, like, is there any genuine thought and emotion? This is, again, one of the most puzzling things about the human condition. What is love? We think we know love. Actually, very few people have any clue of what love is, really.
But what we're doing is removing the blocks to love. It's awareness.
Yeah. So that you can actually allow it to come through, and you can experience the divine love, which is, yes, I see you as myself. There's no special attachment there. There's no like, I need you, I want you, meet my needs, etc. It's just, I see you as me. And there's a recognition there. And then you feel that oneness just underlying all of your relationships. And it's a very nice feeling.
It is.
It's maybe not as intense as a special love when you're like, oh, I really like, besotted by this person. But then that is a delusion. You're going off the path into special love, which is going to turn, no doubt, into special hate.
Yes.
Because that person is going to disappoint you.
Yes.
And all of that love, you'll then feel disappointed, and you'll feel angry, and you'll feel resentful, and you want to attack them, and that's how it goes. Because you were so attached, now they don't meet your impossible expectations.
That's why they are massive disappointment.
Yeah.
And
then you feel that, and then there's as much kind of ecstasy as there was in those brief moments of ego besottedness and attachment.
Yeah.
Then you experience that the flip side is that much pain. It's just like so painful. And like, why would you want to do that when? And we've all done it, gone there, we've all experienced it. It's like, oh, that's just so much pain. Like, why would you want to put yourself through that when you could have pure formless awareness in every interaction? And it's not as intense necessarily, although at the highest level in revelation, it's very intense. But just in your daily interactions, it's not as intense. Oh, I really love you. I'm like, no, it's just like, it's a recognition of, we are one. There's an underlying peace, and there's a flow and a harmony. And that's far preferable to this attached. I'm so attached, and then I'm so disappointed, and the roller coaster ride of emotions that takes you on isn't worth it. So he's saying, this is the recognition. See that in your brothers, and then you see it in yourself, and then you recognize God. Then you recognize pure formless awareness in your own mind through your relationships. So it's actually a very, very simple teaching. This.
Yes.
But the more I taught the course and studied it, the more you go, it's very, very simple, actually, what he's saying, which is kind of why it's true. But the difficulty in it is that it's so simple that our egos are so complex and have made everything so complex and difficult, that it's the unwinding of all that complexity that's the difficulty. Because we've now got to work through all of that complexity of thought and emotion and try and undo it. It's like the what was it called? The Gallian knot.
Gordian
knot. The Gordian knot. Remember that?
Yep.
The Gordian knot. It's so complex, and it's like, and it's like, what? This just needs it needs a clean solution. It needs a cut. Just cut through it all.
Yes, a clean blade. That's it. That's
exactly. And that blade is the Holy Spirit's awareness, the awareness of oneness. It comes through, cuts like a knife through any situation, and just says, just see it for what it is. It's all a dream, it's illusion. So all of this can just drop away. You really don't have to get enturbulated by these thoughts and emotions. You can let them go. And if you do, then you start to see on this level that you get solutions that are miraculous. Things can start happening. Wow, I couldn't have anticipated that. There's no way I could have manifested that consciously. This just happens because I let go. So this is miraculous manifestation rather than magic manifestation. And it's way, way, way more powerful, like so much more, because it's all coming from the Spirit, and it's all there for your highest good. It's there as part of your correction process to help you out of the dream. It's not there to keep you in the dream any longer than necessary. Whereas using magic is now trying to use your mind to create what you think you want and you need in the dream. And of course, that subtly denies this truth. Even the good stuff here denies that pure formless awareness is what actually all you want. Oh no, I'd prefer to have a special relationship, or I'd prefer to have drugs or sex or rock and roll or food or shopping or whatever it is. I prefer that to this. And that's always the subtle decision we're making whenever we desire anything here. So that's why, to cap it out on where we left off, he's saying, this must be applied to everything. A good world, a bad world, whatever you see as good is equally damaging. This will keep you in the illusion. If you think that there's good stuff going on here in the dream, then that will keep you believing in the dream, and you will stay away from pure formless awareness, which is where the ego wants to keep you. So it's a very, very simple teaching, but it just requires a lot of discipline to hold to it. To go, like, in my daily life, I seem to be in this world, this stuff all seems to be happening, and I just have to keep referencing to oneness. Is this true? And I absolutely know that this is true. Byron Katie's work. No, you can't. You can't know absolutely that any of this is true, can you? Your perception, because you perceive it with your eyes and your ears and so on, does that tell you that it's absolutely true? And it doesn't, really, if you're honest. No, I perceive it, but how do I know that that perception is not false? There's no objective way of telling. From the illusion, there's no objective way of telling. So you have to do it with your mind.
Great.
All right.
Right. Well,
Thank you, Ariana. I enjoyed that. So we do
I
a
enjoyed it too.
little 1 minute closing. So let's end off on a nice note. Close your eyes, breathe in. Just breathe in the love, knowledge, right? I think we're tapping into knowledge coming through tonight.
Yeah.
Streaming into awareness, and feel the gratitude for it, that this is always there. This knowledge of who you really are, the oneness, is with you always. It hasn't really been lost. And this process we're doing is just uncovering this gem, this philosopher's stone in your mind, this holy grail. And it feels beautiful. The more you uncover, the more you see of this, the more grateful you feel. Because it's everything you've ever wanted, everything you desired is there, just waiting for you, this jewel in your awareness. So feel grateful for it, give thanks, and anchor this in your awareness, because the jewel goes with you wherever you go.
Yeah.
It's never lost. So you carry it with you into your rest of your evening, into the weekend. And it's always there, no matter what your experiences are in this world. The jewel is there, and you can always go there. And you can just go into that state and find the peace and the beauty that lies there. And that just undoes whatever the interbulation is, whatever the difficulty in this world, just undoes it all. And be really, really grateful that you've been given that jewel of greatest price, and it's being uncovered moment by moment as you go through this course.
Thank
So
you.
it's said, so it is done, and open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Lovely.
Namaste. I will see you tomorrow night,
Absolutely.
6:30. And try and
Yeah.
watch those. I sent out some videos today in my email and in the WhatsApp message. There were two kind of about 25-minute clips about the Matrix, two aspects of Matrix. So one is the hero's journey, and the other one is the commentary on society. If you watch those before the movie, I think you'll see more in the movie than you would have otherwise.
Good. Thanks
So
for
do it as
that.
your preparation.
Will do.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you
Night.
tomorrow.